Welcome to Beyond the Badge with the Kenner Police Department. I'm Chief Steve Caraway, and each month on this program, you'll get an inside look at the Kenner Police Department and the services we offer our community. Today, we're going to talk about Kenner Police Department's Most Wanted, Kenner Police Department's Self-Defense Class for Women, and beginning today's segment, we'll begin with domestic abuse. It's estimated that 1.3 million women each year are victims of physical abuse by an intimate partner. 1 in every 4 women will be the victim of physical abuse in their lifetime. And sadly, domestic abuse is one of the most unreported crimes in America. With me today is Officer Chris Mitchell of the Kenner Police Department. Chris has been with us since 1997. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you, Chief.
Chris, can you tell us some of your training, first of all, in domestic violence investigations?
Well, obviously, the first training would be being a patrol officer for several years, actually handling domestic violence cases or complaints. I've also attended several seminars on domestic violence. And now, once a month, I actually attend domestic court at City of Kenner Court and get to see firsthand what these women are dealing with.
Can you give us some information, things to look at, what should people do if they are victims of domestic violence? What should a woman do?
First thing, obviously, is to report it, to contact the police, and just to get help. There's a lot of shelters out there, programs that women can contact and talk to someone.
Now, are there any outward signs of abuse, domestic abuse, where people may be afraid to report it? Are there things that police officers look for that help us determine whether or not something is taking place in that home?
Sure. The most obvious sign people would think was going to be some type of physical marks or stuff like that. But if you're some type of friend with the person, you're going to see a change in personality. Someone who's outgoing might now be sheltered and not be as friendly, or you might lose communication with that person, things along that line.
Now, I know over the years, domestic abuse was something that and it still is, wasn't reported as much. I think it's probably reported a little bit more than it was years ago. What are some of the reasons for people not wanting to call the police or to report the violence?
Probably the most common one is just being embarrassed. Not wanting people to know that you're involved in some type of domestic abuse. And a lot of times you'll see women don't believe the abuse warrants calling the police, so they think, oh, you only hit me one time, it won't happen again.
Now, again, you mentioned that victims of domestic abuse, and let me just clear the air, and there are cases where men are also victims, but certainly the people that we see the most in situations of domestic abuse are women, obviously, and I think that's pretty universal throughout law enforcement. I know there's a lot of places they can call, a lot of places they can go to seek assistance, but what can they expect if they call the police? What's the process that takes place in Kenner?
Obviously, the first thing will happen, the police will show up. If the party that's there who committed domestic abuse, there'll probably be some type of arrest or summons issued. They'll go through the court proceeding process, and once they get to city court and they actually see an attorney, they all offered a chance to speak with someone from a battered women's shelter and get some type of help after that. And
I believe there's also a counseling component for the person who administered this abuse.
Yes, they offer what they call a domestic plea, where this person can plead to take 26 domestic violence classes, and even if he doesn't plead and he's found guilty, he's ordered by the court to attend the same classes to get the counseling to help him also. That's
very important. What we used to see over the years were certainly wives or girlfriends who were afraid to report things because they were afraid that once they reported it, it may get worse at home. That's a legitimate concern, and we try to explain to people. We've actually taken that out of the victim's hands, where the police department effects the arrest or issues a summons, whatever the case may be, based on the evidence on the scene. And what is some of the evidence that we look for when we go out on a call like that?
Again, obviously, the first thing you'll look for is any types of signs of violence. Maybe the house is destroyed. You can look for the emotional state of the female and those type of things.
Chris, can you give us some tips for people who are victims of domestic abuse, how they can end this relationship?
Yes. When in an abusive relationship, you should probably do it over the phone so you're not in harm's way.
Okay.
Another thing you can do after ending an abusive relationship is change the locks on your doors and maybe think about installing some type of security system.
Good idea.
And just remember, if you're going to go out and go in public places, it might be a good idea to have several friends with you.
Okay. Chris, can you give our viewers some resources on who to contact if they're in an abusive relationship?
Yes, the first contact point will be Louisiana Domestic Violence Hotline, and the number is 1-888-411-1333, and their website is www.lcadv.org. The second phone number will be for Metropolitan Center for Women and Children, 504-837-5400. They also have a website. It's www.metrobatteredwomen.com. And the third number will be for Louisiana Protective Order Registry, 504-568-5749. They don't have a website listed, but we do have another website. It's called www.endabuse.org.
Right.
And just to pass some information to people looking for help, all these organizations are free and confidential and usually have a 24-hour crisis hotline.
That's great. Chris, thanks for being here today. Great information, some good points made today. And for those of you who missed any of the information on domestic violence, you can visit the Kenner PD website at kennerpd.com and click on Beyond the Badge link. We'll be right back with Kenner's Most Wanted.